So guys, today I'll be asking the question, how will artificial intelligence JPEG African art? But first, what the hell is a JPEG? The word JPEG stands for Joint Photographic Experts Group, and it's typically used to store photographic information. Now that we've covered what exactly a JPEG is, what is JPEGing? The term JPEGing means the flattening of a field or culture as a result of technology or an outside opposing culture. Here's an example of JPEGing. The horse and the modern day car. How do we think about horses today as a result of technological advancements like the automobile? Before the automobile was invented, the main form of transportation was the horse and buggy. Today, horses are more closely associated with measurements of power, like, horsepower. Nowadays, horses are utilized to measure power because the last time horses were contemporary, they were used as a form of transportation. Now, what does all this have to do with African art? When a culture's JPEG'd, it's flattened. All of its layers are removed, and any opportunity you would have had to dive deeper, to learn more, to go further, is now extinguished. When culture becomes JPEG'd by technology, the contributors to said culture that are not selected by said technology or outside force typically become more and more difficult to surface, more and more difficult to acknowledge, and more difficult to learn from. The JPEGing of culture prioritizes efficiency over purpose. And as a result, people of African descent, due to colonization, lose out on a very big chunk of their culture and therefore their identity. The art that was shipped all over the world during the transatlantic slave trade, the art that was taken from places like continental Africa and Mesoamerica, were never replaced. These artifacts were utilized for capitalism, resold to the masses as artifacts of culture, never to be returned to their rightful owners. And as a result, the masses' understanding of art comes from one vantage point and one vantage point alone. African culture was JPEG'd as a result of our cultural artifacts being pillaged during colonization. The rise of Basquiat and the positioning of Basquiat within the art world ultimately JPEG'd the works from the Harlem Renaissance, and here's how. When the Eurocentric art world made Basquiat the premier black artist, the art world, and therefore the masses, were subconsciously convinced to abandon all black art that wasn't approved by the art world. The same art world that approved Basquiat. Artists like Aaron Douglas, Selma Burke, and Romare Bearden are not discussed within the art world at the same rate as Basquiat. Now, the year is 2020, and our world is on the verge of a complete revolution with the introduction of artificial intelligence. This will change the way that we interact with each other, the way that we work, the way that we think, commute, and interpret culture. Especially considering that most black people don't know anything about art to begin with. And the little that we do know about is about Basquiat. In an age of artificial intelligence, how do we make Selma Burke, Aaron Douglas, Justin Bua, Romare Bearden, Bruce W. Smith, and countless other black artists that came before Basquiat as relevant as Basquiat? For one, we can't allow our story to be told by anybody but us. The bottom line is it's up to black people to make sure that our story is told right. In an age of artificial intelligence, attention spans are only going to get shorter. The focal point of history is only going to become more exclusive and more singular. And we need to afford ourselves an opportunity to tell our own stories. And artificial intelligence is on its way, whether we like it or not. So the question becomes, how do we make sure that our work, our culture stays relevant, regardless of what anybody who isn't us tells us is important or suggests to us is important because it's available within some form of artificial intelligence? You know, there was an article years ago that noted a robot that was able to draw like Van Gogh. And this was seen as an innovation. The thing that I think everyone was missing was it only draws like Van Gogh because someone programmed it that way. So what will artificial intelligence robots be programmed with in terms of black art? In terms of information having to do with black art? Will robots of the future even be aware that we create? If artificial intelligence in the form of robots in the future is gathering data in real time, the way that a lot of stores gather data right now, based on internet transactions, based on the websites we frequent, based on what we like on social media, what's the real-time data having to do with black people and the arts? These are all questions I aim to pose by making this video. I want to share what JPEGing means and see what anybody else thinks out there. Thanks a lot. Speak to y'all soon.